Okay, our next game is Tempest 2000, which was nominated by Cambertian on Stitcher. It's developed by Llamasoft and published by Atari Corporation for the Atari Jaguar. Earliest release date is April 1st, 1994. Tempest 2000, the best version of Tempest? Discuss.
Pretty much.
More or less.
One thing I should say real quick, we actually played the DOS version of this game because it is... None of us have Jaguars, and apparently the Jaguar runs off of Dreams and Pulleys, so you can't really emulate it.
Don't tell anyone that we don't all have Jaguars. Everybody trusts us.
We should tell them to send us Jaguars, because nobody wants
send
one.
Send us a Jaguar.
Feel free.
Yeah, with a free copy of Trevor McFern, The Crescent Galaxy, or whatever the hell that one was. But that's irrelevant. But yeah, this is actually one I remember from my childhood, even though I think it was mostly my brother who played it more than I did. But I am a geek for at least old school Tempest, and I gotta admit, as rad as Tempest 2000 is, I'm not sure how to describe it except the arcade classic, but jazzed up for the 90s. So where do we go from
Cal
there?
knows the most about this game, so we should let him introduce.
Go ahead.
Well, he's already introduced it, which is all good, because I think that was a perfectly adequate introduction. So basically, Tempest 2000 is Tempest, but with more particle effects and techno or trance music or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basic. It has more power-ups. I don't think the original game really had much, if anything, in the way of power-ups.
More dromedaries, possibly?
But yeah, so I mean, this is a very kind of simple game. It's a tube shooter. I don't know how many people are familiar with the tube shooter, but basically you are on a. It's kind of hard to describe what it is. It's like a fixed level that is a random shape defined by the game itself. So it's like be a circle or a line or a jagged line or like triangle-y sort of thing. If you see a picture of it, you'll understand. And you can move on this grid in singular block increments, and enemies will come up the grid, and you have to shoot them. And if you shoot enough of them, you will then progress to the next area. And when you defeat enemies, Tempest 2000 will often dump power-ups on you, which shoot down the tube, and you have to collect them, otherwise you won't get any power-ups. And you get some stuff. You can jump with a power-up, which is really useful for dodging certain attacks.
Very important.
And you get like extra rapid fire and a drone that shoots other part of the level. And this is basically the game. It is a very, very core vintage classic era arcade style game.
If there's any game I'd say I'd compare this to more than anything, probably Space Invaders.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like a Space Invaders meets Arkanoid meets like Battlezone or something.
I do want to say one thing about this game that's kind of a big flaw real quick.
Okay.
This game, to play this game optimally, you need a rotary controller, and you can only get those custom made for the Jaguar, so you're probably not going to play this game the way it was intended to be played.
Yeah, that's the catch of the game's source, because the original Tempest by Atari back in the arcades, the movement of your ship thingy was on a dial that I always just really like to spin, put a lot of torque in it, and go whee like 4 times across the level. But just going with a pad admittedly does make the experience already feel kind of gimped.
But if you're playing on a PC, you could the easiest thing would probably be is you can get a trackball.
Oh yeah, of course.
That would probably work okay, I think.
Kind of. The real advantage of the rotary controller is every singular tick is a equivalent click on the game level. So if you need to move 8 squares to the side, you can quite actually spin 8, and you can feel the ticks come out, tick, 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 and you'll be like, yep, that's where I need to go. It's a surprisingly intuitive system when you actually play it with the dial, which it's really tough because it's not really this game's fault that it's very hard to play it with a dial, because
without a dial. Yeah, but I would say that the game, like, as you play it, once you get used to it, you get used to the feel of it, and you won't need the tick, 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 tick. it's like a trombone, I guess. Like you kind of just know where to go.
It does. You do get used to it. I'd say it. Just a little bit of the fun, I think, is lost when you're not.
I would say
spinning that dial. It's kind of like playing Missile Command with anything but a trackball. It's kind of like, I get it, but when you're using the trackball, it's that little bit better.
Yeah, that's true.
But what is cool about this one is it is one of the most positively 90s remakes that you could ever see in a game, despite the fact that it doesn't have CG. But boy, it cranks out this absolutely fantastic music soundtrack trance.
I hope you like techno, because you're going to be hearing a lot of it.
I do. Yay!
It's actually really good stuff. It's not bad.
Yeah,
it isn't bad.
The only 90s element this game's missing is like a gratuitous video clip shot in an abandoned factory with people dancing. That's how 90s it is to me. It's
Can I say
it doesn't have like a CG intro where triangles and figures just sort of fly at you and then there's just noises.
Can I say one thing about this game I really appreciate?
Yeah. Sure.
I miss games like anytime you do anything, giant letters show up on the screen to tell you exactly what happens. I miss that so much.
It introduces stage names and just throws random words at you. When a power-up is activated, it says, get the power-up and stuff, and it's just everything is just constantly spewing words on the screen. And
they kind of bounce in front of the screen like in a wave. It's like, and there's a gradient effect to them on the a bitmap gradient type thing. It's very charmingly 90s.
There is another point I'd like to make, if that's okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That is also kind of a downside. I'd say this game is at times a little bit too visually busy that you can really see everything that's going on very well. And that does make the difficulty somewhat unfair at times, I would say.
It's true. What's the game I was going to compare this to? In modern game terms, you could play Super Hexagon, which is what this game is to Space Invaders is what Super Hexagon is to, say, Flappy Bird or something like that. You're just avoiding stuff, but it is essentially the same. You don't shoot, but you're still avoiding, and there's the music aspect to it, and
it is an audio-visual experience in a way that a lot of other games at the time didn't succeed at doing.
It features the voice of the great and sorely missed Jen Frank of Retronauts fame.
Mm-hmm. Really? Yeah. Super Hexagon is definitely a favorite of mine, although I don't think I've ever beaten
it's hard as hell.
Level. I'm
really
bad.
hard.
Yeah,
but this game is not designed to be hard as hell. It's actually pretty achievable. It feeds a lot of new enemies and gimmicks at you. There's these much like the original Tempest, it's got plants that grow up, it's got enemies that electrify lanes, so you got to watch out for that. Enemies that split into two when you shoot them, so you got to go to both side lanes. Really cool, very basic arcade elements like that with the enemy designs. But it lets you choose to start at a level that you've cleared to an extent once you get a certain way into the game, so it doesn't even force you to replay the whole game every time you want to start again if you don't want to, which I think is a nice.
I would say you kind of need to anyway, because you kind of need to build up lives in the early levels so you have a better chance of going through the later levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, also there's just a momentum that kind of comes from playing these old style arcade games.
Before we rank, if that's okay, I think we should probably talk about the guy who made this game, because he has an interesting career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Who doesn't respect Jeff Minter for kind of picking what he wanted to do somewhere in the 80s and just making the same thing over and over and over?
Kind of. I mean, Jeff Minter is, I would say this, if you have a classic arcade game and you want to update it not update it completely, but if you want to not port it, but kind of bring it into a new generation, he's the guy to do it. He did this for Tempest. He famously made a version of the Atari 2600 Empire Strikes Back with the giant llamas and stuff and camels. He also, this is what I'm dying to play. one of my favorite games ever, Star Raiders. He did a version of Star Raiders. I'm not sure if it's for the Jaguar or for the PC or something, but it's unreleased. It's might be missing forever. But he did, considering what he did to Tempest, I'd love to see what he did with this.
I think he has an extremely prominent gift for seeing a game in terms of like, okay, these are the fun elements, so I'll just crank those a little bit. I'll make those bigger and louder and better, and that's most of what he does. You know, then he just, there you go. It's, you know, it's a bit better, and it's like, yes, it is. That's louder. It's more fun. Cool. Let's play it.
I have actually a question about Jeff Minder's background, if everyone knows. Does he have any experience working in demo scene on like the Amiga or what have you? Because Tempest 2000 really does seem like a demo scene product almost, and I mean that's a compliment to it. But
He kind of predates any real demo scene.
It's kind of like the stuff he was making was at the same time. It just has a shared aesthetic, which probably is related. He probably was aware of demo scene stuff. It would be impossible not to if you were in the Euro computer, scene, which he was. He did end up doing a visualizer. I think he did the visualizer. Was it for the new one, or was it the? He did the visualizer in the at 360, didn't he? Like he was heavily involved in the development of that for your music, which is interesting. Look that up. It's true.
Well, you mean the 360 or the original Xbox?
I couldn't tell you which one. I foolishly forgot to check exactly which one.
My one complaint about the guy's work is that he does do other things. He branched out in like the iOS market, but he does so many games that are basically this but slightly different, and then he acts surprised when somebody notices.
Well, look, let's be fair. Like we're talking about, I think the big game is TXK, right?
Yes.
So TXK is very much a elaboration on Tempest 2000, but he acts surprised. Like what we're talking about is like legal things, where Atari is like the video game supervillain. It is a IP that exists now only to sue better game makers. So this has been going on for a long time now, years and years.
Atari's not even a tangible supervillain. It's more like a evil force of nature, like an elder god or what have you, that just lives on through these like incarnations that no one
whoever
can
owns
track.
it at the time. You if you own Atari, you own it
phantom
for the right to sue cool games and erase them and destroy them.
It's
one of my favorite
WMD
games
of
one of my favorite games of the for like phones, touch screens and stuff was a game called Battle Tanks, and it was a Battlezone kind of game, but it was way cool. It looked like Battlezone, but it had all this other stuff you could do. It was awesome. I played it a lot years ago.
Great touchscreen controls on that one.
I had for a while, I to my knowledge, because it was ripped off the marketplace so fast, I think I have the highest score recorded in the world on Battle Tanks. But you can't prove it because nobody can download and play it now. And TXK is one of those games that would exist, but for Atari or
well,
whoever owns
the
Atari.
Vita version slipped out, right? You can get it on Vita, I think. But the problem with it is that, to me, Tempest as a game is also a genre. It's a tube shooter. It is a whole genre, and the fact that you make several tube shooters is not dissimilar from making several shmups. There are many people and companies that make a lot of shmups, and it's really unfair that any company can be like, oh, you made a game that uses vectors and is a tube? Well, that's our game, so we're just suing you now. Like, that's bullshit.
Okay, so the game I was talking about, I think, was Ultra Star Raiders, which was for the Atari Lynx, and it was that was the game Jeff Minter was working on. But yeah, that was killed, and I think it's gone. But it was apparently finished, which is
what happened? Atari put they just went, okay, the game's not 100% finished and on cart. That's it. We're throwing it out. We're abandoning the Lynx. Everyone get out. They did that in, I think, 92? I can't remember the exact year, but yeah, there was a point where Atari's like, I don't care. Everything in development is canceled. Everything that's not already basically being printed onto cart is gone. So
Are you California?
Atari were just like-
okay, whatever. Go hell.
Atari were basically just masters of sabotaging themselves in every possible way. It's kind of crazy.
They suck. Okay, so
Let's
Jeff
rank
Minter.
this, yeah.
Before we rank this, Jeff Minter, if you're listening, please come on the show. We love you.
Actually,
I would love to talk to Jeff Minter. He's awesome. His games are awesome. I wish all of his new games could come out and he would not be molested by the horrible people who own Atari. All right,
he just
where do we
wants to
want to put
release
this?
good games. Let him.
He's like the Guillermo del Toro of the gamescape.
Just come up with a deal. Just say, hey, guess what? Can we get 15% of the proceeds that from the profits from this game? Okay, everybody wins.
Maybe they just
assholes.
refuse to negotiate out of spite. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, they aren't even a they. It is a legal department that has no interest in anything except for don't do this. We own this.
I'm just waiting for them to turn Tempest to a MOBA.
It's just they suck. The whole point. They aren't even a company anymore. It's an IP that exists. It's like a free floating destroyer out there, just leeching off of other cooler games and ruining them so that nobody can enjoy them. When they should be doing is using that power to boost the signal, so to speak, of those games and getting them out there to more people and putting their name on it, giving them the stamp of approval, and everybody wins because you've got a game that's out there and it's fun and cool and people like it and you make money, but instead they just choose to destroy.
I say we flood. I say we flood their head office wherever it's currently located.
Let's not do anything that can get us legally in trouble if someone does flood their office.
This is
we can't technically flood it. It's an improbable suggestion, wink.
But if you happen to have a fire hose and the appropriate wrench size to hook it up to a fire hydrant, and you know where these people are, I would be okay if you flooded their office, literally.
Okay. All right.
Something, Tempest 2000. Let's rank it, right?
Let's rank it.
Okay.
It seems like for these, we have a spot basically in mind for these simple arcade games like this. That's usually where games like Zookeeper and Tapper end up.
Are you seriously considering putting Tempest 2000 next to Zookeeper?
Well, should we go higher than that?
Like, this is what we always get into with these remakes. Is it better enough compared to Tempest? And my answer is, well, no, not really. I mean, it's really good. If you're gonna play Tempest, this is the way to play it now. But
unless you can get it with a dial. Sorry, I gotta say,
if
I had any choice in what Tempest version I would play, and it does contribute to the rating. Vintage Tempest arcade machine. There's no better thing.
No question.
It's great.
The way I know.
Playing a vector arcade on an actual machine is the way to go. It looks like nothing else. It feels like
it doesn't need all the particle effects. It doesn't need floating text. It's just like, wow, this is
it
really
looks so good. Is there?
Cool.
I know Tempest didn't come out for the Vectrex, but is there a analog, for the Vectrex, like a Tempest-like game? That would be a great way to play it. People oftentimes end up selling Vectrex without knowing how much they're worth or how cool they are. So that's a great console to look for at garage sales and stuff if you ever find one. But I would put Tempest 2000. It's got to go below, like, I don't really think it's. I don't feel right putting it in like the Kix Galaga kind of Robotron sort of range.
That's where I put the classic Tempest, somewhere around there.
This is better than the classic Tempest, is it not?
It is, but I don't. There's Tempest enough, 2000 right? Desperately needed Tempest to exist. There's not enough of a spin in this game, as far as I'm concerned, to really justify putting it above Tempest.
In a way, this is kind of like, this is to Tempest what Gal's Panic is to Kix, whereas Gal's Panic just took the genius that is Kix and added nudity, which made it just slightly better.
There are no boobs in Tempest 2000, so I don't know what metric you're going for here.
It's not better enough. Is the thing.
It really is like it's if you're gonna play Tempest, it's a great way to play Tempest. But I still would love the original game, and Tempest, the original Tempest could not have a kicking techno soundtrack. That's physically impossible for it to have had that.
This is the game, yeah. The soundtrack, it really does make the game. But then again, like, you know, although it's not on the list, like I'd say Super Hexagon really does duplicate a lot of the charm of Tempest 2000. And you can play it now, and good people will get the money. Just put it that way.
There is a pared down. There is a port of Tempest 2000 that Atari has not obliterated from the Android and possibly iPhone market. It's called Cyclone 2000, and it's pretty good. If you're, I don't know, trying to play Tempest, it's got analog controls. It's all right. Cool. It's worth checking out. It's like $1, I think.
So I'm gonna say it's got to go below Zookeeper, I think.
I don't think it's got to go below Zookeeper. I think that's
Zookeeper is great. Zookeeper is original.
Zookeeper is great.
It's unique. It's great.
But I think Tempest 2000 is still, you know, it's...
No, the Tempest 2000 is really good, but it is Tempest. Plus
yeah, it is
2000.
Tempest.
Whatever that is. You know, it's like... even by Jeff Minter standards, it's not really... You know what I mean? Like, it's not even one of his best exactly in a lot of ways, but
it's pretty solid. The thing is,
that's true. It's hard to argue. This is a hard one because I really like this.
Well, you guys, you know, if all else fails, you can always use UN Squadron as your springboard, and then just go.
Let's put it right above UN Squadron, and
I'm okay with that. I can't see any reason to disagree with that.
Wait, you guys are serious?
I do want to slow you guys down just a second, because, I mean, is Tempest 2000 out? I mean, you know, you got Street Fighter 3 and Bang.io just below.
Actually,
I'm not 100% sure. I love Tempest 2000. But
I'm flattered you took my suggestion to heart.
I have a new idea. Below Outrun.
Outrun 2006.
Yes.
Between Outrun and In the Hunt.
I would, okay, compromise. No? Above Outrun 2006, below Deja Vu.
I think
fair.
that's a good place.
Okay, yay, we're done.
Hey, sounds good.